the reality of so many relationships is that there are people who are extremely convincing. There are people who are extremely, their ability to brainwash you into something you never thought you would be capable of accepting. The ability to have your reality distorted over time. It is profound and it is humbling, and everyone thinks it could never happen to them until it happens to them. And then you go, oh my God, how did I allow that for so long? And,
True.
And I feel it's important because, forgive me if I'm misreading
No,
you,
I'm sure you're right.
It feels like for you, the headline is, it was your fault. And for me, the headline is, this was them. At some point in the process of helping you, let's definitely get to the question of what was happening in you that allowed you to turn a blind eye to this for so long, or ignore those signs when they came up. And let's do that work, because we need to make sure that no one can ever get in this way again. But to me, the headline, the only way to heal is to start from a place of, what was done was wrong.
Yes.
It was them. It was their character. It was disgraceful. And that we are someone that was done to. That doesn't mean we can't change it. And it doesn't mean we can't get out. It doesn't mean we can't change the way we approach these things in the future. But I just worry that someone listening to this would think that the headline is, it's my fault, as opposed to the headline is, this person revealed who they are, showed their character, and did something really, really wrong that you deserve compassion for.
I think you're both right. And here's what I'll add in
I'm
here.
really glad that you're saying this, because I'm sure this is what people in the comments are probably reaching to say.
Here's
so I'm
what,
glad
here's
that
what I'll
I'm
add
hearing
in here, because I can relate to like both things. Like, okay, here are the signs that I saw, even though, and this thing happened later. I'm responsible because I did see signs.
Yeah.
But also, they did something horrible, and it is their fault. So I think it's a both and. And I think it's and what I could say now is like,
can both of those be true?
I think they can both be true. And what I can say, like, seeing it from a different perspective now, where I feel like I'm in a healthier place in my own relationship, is that when I entered my relationship, with Martha, I entered it from a place of, I don't need this relationship. Not that like, screw you, I don't care if this works out or not, but I don't need this. I'm not anxious to make sure this happens. As we started to get to know each other, I was like, I want this to happen if we're in alignment on our values. If we're not, then I wish you the best. But I'm not going to enter something if the values are not aligned for both of us, because then it's going to be too much friction. It's going to be so hard work. It's not going to be enjoyable for either of us. And therefore, in the dating process with Martha, there was never an inconsistency with her words and her actions based on her values.
Yeah.
So I was able to see words, actions, they matched.
Yeah.
And she was able to see that with me. And that means we both had to be extremely communicative to each other. We both had to be courageous with each other on our wants, our needs, the things we don't like, and speak those things early on.
Yeah.
In risking the other person not wanting to be with each other, right? And I think because we entered in that way, it feels healthier. Now, it doesn't mean like everything's going to be perfect and work out for, the rest of our lives or whatever, but it feels like I can fully see who she is. And if she did something, sure, it would be out of character that would be hurtful, but I'm also okay as well.
Yeah.
And also, another side note here is like, I love that you both share this point
because
of view.
I agree. My headline is it's your fault, and I really stand by that.
The person who was like cheated on her.
Yeah.
Well, you also see, to finish the thought here, is you also hear this when women go through a divorce.
Yeah.
And you ask them this question on your wedding day, when you're walking down the aisle, did you have a feeling that something was off? Most people would say something was off.
Yeah.
Some people might say, no, everything was
perfect. It's the happiest day, yeah.
It was perfect, and like I had no signs.
Yeah.
But it's like, were you really also asking the tough questions? Maybe you were.
Yeah.
but did you ask all these different questions?
Or did you just want to be with that person? And that's why I would stand by
I'm not
that.
saying it's your fault
But have
if somebody
neither
got
of
cheated
you-
on.
I
I'm
have
not saying
to know
that's
this. Have neither of you ever had a personal relationship, a friendship, or a business relationship that really caught you off guard when someone didn't show up and you thought, God, that was a day where I really thought they'd show up for me and they didn't, and it really caught you off guard?
That's never happened.
But when I was able to look back, I'd be like, oh, there might have been some signals.
Right, but that's fine,
There
but
were
it's
signs.
incredibly
But you have hope that
but
which
it's
they
so
wouldn't.
lacking in self-compassion to
No,
go
but
straight to, and therefore it's my fault.
It's not meaning it's your fault if they don't show up for you.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't
your
think your
fault
fault.
for having the
That's
wrong
what-
expectations on the wrong. Here's what I would say. I definitely stand by it's your fault in life with everything. Your weight is your fault. Your income is everything is your responsibility. I'm on
Those
the
are different
extreme.
things. Those are different things.
I know,
Fault and responsibility are very different
understand,
things.
Yeah.
But some people, some people say it's your consequence, which is like a positive
It's
or
a
negative.
consequence
It's
of
like
choices.
the consequence of
Right, but that
choice.
And even in
consequence doesn't to connect all of that with fault is it's a strange connection to make in a lot of cases. Responsibility makes sense always. Wherever I am today, me taking responsibility for making my life better always and forever makes sense. But I find the spending this time worrying about where to point the finger to be quite unproductive and also completely devoid of self-compassion. And it is absolutely true that there are people who we may have seen on a lower level some inconsistency in their behavior, or we may have seen some things that we didn't love. It is anyone who spends a lot of time in narcissistic relationships will tell you that the ways that someone was able to shock them on when things really hit the fan there wasn't some steady trajectory to like low level grievances to I had cancer and they wouldn't drive me to the hospital. No one knows until they're in that place. No one knows who that person is going to be.
I would disagree with that, and I would highly disagree with that because very few people who maintain promises then don't show up when you're in the hospital for cancer. So when my husband, one of the reasons why I'm so attached and why I selected is because I never experienced a cancelled date. I never experienced late. It was never a case where he'd say, I'm coming at 3, he'd come at 5. Never. And I remember there would never be a cancelled date. So when you're dealing with that person, and then I went into hospital for cancer and he didn't turn up, then I can honestly say, well, this may not be my fault, or there's been such a change in his character that I haven't paid attention to. Maybe recently he has been breaking promises, but this is just the final one that I paid attention to. So I would still take onus on that. The reason why I think self-compassion should be replaced with self-responsibility is being compassionate with yourself will allow you to think that you are a victim to other people who are just terrible. But when you realize that selection is more important in determining your outcomes than any other factor, you'll be more cautious of selection.
I'm truly shocked to hear you say that self-compassion isn't the answer.
No, I don't believe that.
I find
what is your
shocking.
definition of self-responsibility versus self-compassion?
I think self-compassion is forgiving yourself for your mistakes, but not ignoring you made the mistakes. So what I mean by self-compassion, it's my fault. Everything in life is my fault. I might think that mentality.
You mean
but I forgive myself.
Responsibility or fault? I mean,
but I forgive myself but the other alternative is it's not my fault. It's all them, and I just need to fix myself. I forgive myself.
Just take this, you have to believe that there are situations that people are in that are not their fault.
I do.
I can't imagine that you would say teenager who goes through abuse, it's their fault.
I would say that, look, outside of your parents and your siblings, most people are self-selection, and of course your environment can help that with that selection as well. But
okay, let's take the adult that goes through abuse that they couldn't have seen coming. That's their fault.
Can you give me an example? Is it like a parent that's abusing them?
No, a partner.
A relationship.
Someone they're on date 3 with.
Here's the thing: the gun that's holding you to that relationship is your own self-esteem. It's no one's pointing a gun.
You don't know that they've done anything. The idea that everyone always and forever indicates that they are something nasty is a kind of it feels really naive to me, because there are such talented liars out there.
Mhm.
And there are some
Or-
truly talented narcissists who know how to create an impression of who they are and the way they show up in your world.
Uh-huh.
usually
I'm
there's
not,
a-
But
listen,
I-
I'm not saying that there aren't many situations where
Yeah.
if we were really paying attention, we'd see discrepancies in what
Yeah.
someone's telling us and what the actions are.
Right,
Of
right.
course,
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
course.
We get love bombed, but
But-
we don't see that.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of situations where you could not have seen coming just how badly someone betrayed you, or just, it's like saying, someone who forgot to pay me back $100 for dinner last week when they said they would.
Mm-hmm.
6 months later, when they robbed my bank account, I go, I should have seen it coming. They didn't pay me back for dinner. There's there's such a leap between those two things, and human beings are capable of those giant leaps in moments that truly shock us when
But
they
do you
happen.
also think people, it's not that they make those giant leaps, it's just that when I decide to go blind with this person, it looks like a leap. I might have met somebody who didn't pay me back for one fee, or didn't pay me back another time. Because I've become blind to it, look, there are very talented liars out there, but they only work with naive people. Talented
not
liar
true.
cannot
That's
work
not
in
true.
my world.
That's
I've
just
not
not true.
experienced it because I'm attuned to it. There has to be a level of accepting there has to be, because people can't hide character. They can hide behaviors, but they can't hide character.
There are people who, there are people who are able to pull the wool over incredibly smart people's eyes, and it's to label everyone who's ever been through that situation as naive is.
Maybe they're just trusting. Maybe it's just,
It's just
there's
trusting.
trusting
I'm not saying
people.
naive is a bad
If
trait.
we label trusting as naive, are we labeling trusting as naive now?
Yes, when the behaviors behaviors and words don't align,
But we're not
and
saying
you trust
they don't.
regardless.
We're saying a liar's behaviors and words can align for a while.
For a while is a keyword.
But then if
yeah.
they-
But then when the other shoe drops, what do I say? It's my fault for not somehow predicting this?
Our responsibility as a human being is not to just believe the best in people, is to believe the truth in
But
people.
they were showing me the best in them.
But
I was seeing a great person.
At some point, nobody can lie 24 hours a day, 7 days
But
a
I'm
week.
not seeing them 24 hours a day.
But even in your experience, people will show you they come late, they don't listen to promises, they might be doing different things on social
But when
media.
someone shows up late, I don't think that they're going to, do something horrible to me 4 weeks later.
They're not. That's not necessarily going to lead to that. But there's always bigger signs that lead to bigger betrayals. I personally have never come across a client that's been hugely betrayed, and this is the first time this person's ever let them down, ever in their life. I've never seen that.
You won't find me saying that there aren't, in many cases, signs that when we look back, we couldn't have seen. We often do.
Mm-hmm.
But the scope of abuse that I have seen makes it, and how it can happen to absolutely anybody.
Mm-hmm.
The smartest, strongest people I know have been through some of the worst things. It makes it impossible for me to come to a conclusion that it's their fault. It makes it impossible for me to, it certainly would make it impossible for me to ever start from a place of saying, self-compassion isn't what you need. What you need is to know it's your fault.
Mm-hmm.